Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
We'll catch up with Congressman Garret Graves when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
I've been doing business with LBIS for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes LBIS a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Promoting workplace safety and family wellness. That's our motto at Gulf Coast Occupational Medicine. The Gulf Coast staff is made up of some of the most knowledgeable and hardest working medical professionals in Louisiana. We care about your safety and your bottom line. With 8 convenient locations in the greater Baton Rouge area, our services include injury management, physical exams, medical surveillance, and substance abuse testing. For more information, visit us on the web at gcombr.info and ride the wave to safety. Passion, experience, safety. These are what set Arkell Constructors apart as a premier general contractor. At Arkell Constructors, our goal is to exceed our clients' expectations, whether it's commercial, industrial, or facility maintenance. We have the team and processes in place to provide a solution for you. To us, every project is a resume for our future. Arkell Constructors, the solution for your next building project.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Congressman Garret Graves is our guest. Second appearance on the TV show, I think. Welcome back.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having us back.
Give us an update on Garret Graves. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us about your committee assignments, maybe some of the successes you've had.
Sure. Well, we serve on the House Transportation Committee and also serve on the Natural Resources Committee. We chose those because those are issues that are bread and butter for home. They're really important issues. The energy industry, the coastal issues, the traffic issues, the Corps of Engineer issues, maritime river, just really things that are integral to what we do here. So it's been a great decision for us. Everything from starting out, we were able to negotiate about a $500 million increase in transportation funds, starting a new grant program that provided substantially more funds for Louisiana. In fact, we announced one of the largest transportation grants in the nation. You know, and Tim, I'll tell you, you can talk about dollars and just say, well, what does this really mean? I'll give you an example. Washington Street exit, the only place in the interstate system where it funnels down to one lane, that's going to be eliminated. And just things like that. Working on the COMET project, we'll be announcing in the next few months full funding for the COMET project. And so just some of these things that have been out there for not years, but decades unaddressed. The committees have given us a real opportunity to fix some of those things. We passed legislation providing about $100 million a year in coastal restoration funds for the state. So just continuing to work on some of the important things. We obviously have a lot of work to do still on flood recovery, on traffic problems, and so focusing on those right now. But I'm glad we chose the committees we did. I think it's been very compatible with some of the issues that we have here at home.
A couple of things you mentioned there that I want to dig a little deeper into. The first is these traffic issues, particularly around Greater Baton Rouge. Now, this show is covering most of the state, but specifically, I think you find your worst traffic congestion in the Greater Baton Rouge area. This whole idea of another Mississippi River bridge eventually, relieving the congestion at Washington Street so that it's not the only place on I-10 from California to Florida where it squeezes down to one lane, as you say. Critically important things that you've been able to accomplish. What's the key to being able to get stuff like that done, Congressman?
I think one, being able to come up with a clear plan. What is it that you're trying to do? And instead of having, well, here are 5 different solutions, coming up with a clear plan on what it is that you're trying to do. 2, making sure that you build local support for it to where everybody is pushing in the same direction. And 3, something that we've been successful at is not just looking for one pot of money. The projects that we've been able to build, the dollars we've been able to bring home are through dozens of different federal programs, and looking at how you perhaps take segments or bites of a project and build them through different compatible federal programs, and just getting good at that. And so I think that those are some of the strategies to success. But, look, I'll say it again. The fact that some of these projects, like the Comeet project, 30-plus year history, Washington Street exit, 30-plus year history, and being able to come in and say, all right, look, we're going to focus on this, we're going to work together with the community, we're going to make sure we address concerns, and we're going to get this fixed, we're going to get this problem eliminated. I think it's been great so far. We've got to continue using that strategy to continue knocking out problems, because, like you said, we need a new bridge crossing. We need a bridge crossing in Lake Charles. We need one in Baton Rouge. We've got some major traffic problems in New Orleans, even down to Fourchon and Grand Isle. They've got traffic problems. Highway 90 needs to be upgraded to an interstate from Lafayette to New Orleans. We have got a lot of investments we need to make, and quite frankly, we're decades behind where we need to be. So it's going to take focus
and results, and focus and results are what you're bringing for Louisiana in Washington. Let's talk about another passion of yours, and that's coastal restoration. You spent a lot of time working on that even when you were in state government here. The beautiful new water campus here in Baton Rouge, a wonderful thing for the entire state. But coastal restoration is an issue that matters to all Louisianians. Give us a little update on where we stand.
Sure. So look, Louisiana's lost 2,000 square miles of our coast. So if we were the state of Rhode Island, we wouldn't exist anymore. And it's not just a habitat issue, a birds and fish problem. That's our buffer to hurricanes. It's our productivity for fisheries and wildlife and waterfowl. So we have been able to pull together about 42 different funding streams. We've been able to pull together somewhere around $25 billion, creating an entire new industry in Louisiana while we're working to help protect the people, protect the businesses, the economic activity, and the ecological productivity that occur down there. So we can continue to have Sportsman's Paradise, continue to have great weekend trips down to the coast. We've been able to pass legislation bringing, as I mentioned, about $100 million a year in extra money. We just got the first check from a different federal program, about $80 million in federal funds for coastal restoration dollars. So look, we're just continuing to bring additional funds to the table, but I'll tell you something that is underappreciated is some of the streamlining of the project process. The Corps of Engineers couldn't make things more complicated and expensive. We say behind their backs they may be slow, but at least they're expensive. And then we laugh, but the reality is it's sad because it delays some of these projects that need to get done. So we've been working on breaking through some of that red tape and just helping to get dollars in the ground and not on bureaucracy.
Once again, results. And this whole idea of coastal restoration, critically important to the citizens, critically important to the oil and gas industry and businesses in this state, and I know that's been a great team effort. This is a question I like to ask folks that we have on the show from time to time. What's a day like for a congressman? I mean, other than being away from your family, what's the best part of the job? What's the most difficult part of the job?
Yeah. Well, when we're in D.C., it's long and pretty intense. Probably days start. I usually wake up around 5:15 or so, go exercise, and your day is pretty much scheduled in 10 to 30-minute increments. And just doing meetings and meetings and meetings, doing a lot of committee meetings and hearings, which those, you may be there for an hour or two. And then going on to the night. People from Louisiana love to go to D.C., so there are always many evening meetings, receptions, dinners that you go to. I mean, it's not uncommon to have 5 different receptions or dinners with Louisiana folks on an average night. I'll tell you some of the things that make you feel good is getting some of these problems that have been around forever, and whether it was the long-term problems or more recently with our flood disaster, this silly duplication of benefits issue where flood victims are being told that if you got a loan from the federal government, you can't get a grant because those are duplicative of one another. And I mean, look, you and I look at that and say that's ridiculous. We just passed legislation that fixed it, that just eliminated it through the House.
Maybe we'll come back from break. I want to talk a little bit more about the details of that. I want to talk about some community development block grant money you've been able to bring to the state as well. We're visiting with Congressman Garret Graves. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
For over a quarter century, Kelly's has operated with honesty, integrity, and above all, safety. Kelly's features a fleet of quality equipment operated by dedicated, safety-minded employees skilled in land clearing, above-ground right-of-way maintenance, vegetation control, station yard and manned facility maintenance, above-ground pipeline support, and more. Kelly's Industrial Services, where pipeline right-of-way maintenance gets done right.
What if I said that whatever good things you build you? And that in this economy, sweat never loses its value? What if I said that there isn't a challenge in the world too great for a craft professional with the right tools? And that the steps that lead from where you are to where you want to be can only be built by you? Build your future at byf.org.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Congressman Garret Graves is our guest. Congressman, in the last segment, you were talking a little bit about this duplication of benefits issue. Let's get in a little more detail there.
Sure. One of the greatest things about this job is just that you have an opportunity to fix problems. You talk to real people, you find real problems, and just you have a chance to fix them, an opportunity to fix them. Federal government's come up with this interpretation that if you were given a loan after the flood that we had in August of 2016, that makes you ineligible for a grant to restore your home or buy that car or furniture or appliances, whatever it is that you need. Clearly, there's no duplicative, there's nothing duplicative about a loan and a grant. And so we were able to pass legislation through the House to eliminate that, to make these people eligible for federal assistance so they can get back in their homes and in their businesses. We shouldn't be penalizing the people that are proactive.
Early part of April, you and Governor Edwards jointly announced that the federal government is going to allocate an additional $1.2 billion in community development block grants to those parishes that were affected by the flood for hazard mitigation. That's another accomplishment. Talk a little bit about what that's all about.
Yes, it's really amazing when you look at all of the recovery efforts that we've done since the August 2016 flood. We're probably just over about $10 billion in federal funds. So all the recovery is federally funded. There's not state funds that are paying for that. So it's been great that we've been able to bring these dollars back and help people recover, but it's been very frustrating that the money has not been getting out to flood victims. And so we're working on that. But the $1.2 billion, look, we can't put people back in their homes and businesses and say, look, just build back where you were and everything's going to be okay. This $1.2 billion is something we've been working on for well over a year now. It is one of the largest allocations to the state of Louisiana in history for flood protection money. And it's going to allow us to move forward on projects like Comeet, projects like West Shore, just take some of these projects like Morganza, these projects that have been around literally for decades and haven't actually been built or little has been done to truly provide flood and hurricane protection. And it's given us the resources. In fact, overall, including three other funding streams, we think we're going to be closer to about $3 billion in flood protection and water resources funding that we'll be announcing this year.
You know, we've talking about all of these accomplishments and all of these things that you are able to do for your state in your position by focusing, working with coalitions, making sure the locals are involved. And so when I ask you a question about dysfunction in Washington. For you particularly, it's almost counterintuitive because you are able to break through the dysfunction. But those of us who watch the media, who watch Fox, who watch CNN, we look at what appears to be a broken system. Talk about dysfunction, what it looks like from the inside, and how you're able to navigate it so well.
Look, it is dysfunctional, and I don't want to take away from that at all. It is a dysfunctional system. It is not, it is governed largely by party politics and partisanship. People actually so divide. The minority party will so divide to try and make it look more dysfunctional, to try and prevent things from happening. But I'll also tell you, I think the Senate's got some major problems. We've passed about 425 bills through the House that are sitting at the Senate that aren't moving. 200 of those passed unanimously. Just to give you an idea, meaning non-contentious, uncontentious bills that have moved over there. So what we've done that I think is different, one, we try and find the bills and find the policies that are actually bipartisan. The things that I talked about, those aren't partisan issues. And look, they're partisan things we get involved in, certainly, because we're representing our people. And you may have people in California that have different views of those in Louisiana, if I can pick on California for a minute. But as long as we make it clear that we're not doing it for the purposes of picking on California or picking on liberals or what have you, and we make it clear that we're representing the people that sent us here to represent them, I think it helps to dissipate or to sort of depressurize the situation. But let me say it again, Tim, the partisanship up there, it is extraordinary. And so what you have to do to be successful, you have to find those rare opportunities on bills that are actually moving. You have to find ways to make your policies germane to that bill and get them through. And so it's all about recognizing opportunities and making sure that you jump on them. I'll tell you, some of the things we've been working on, we've had them sitting in our back pocket for a year and a half, waiting for the right bill, and then pulling them out and getting them on there and moving it.
Well, I encourage you to continue reaching across and working on those things that are bipartisan and things that allow you to be as successful as you have been. Let's talk about the Trump administration. Now we're, 15, 16 months into the Trump administration now. Your general thoughts?
Look, first, let's be clear. The president's tactics and language in some cases, it causes pretty significant reactions. Some people say, heck yeah. Other people just absolutely detest that type of candor or confrontation. Yeah, perhaps that's a better word. But I'll tell you what I stay focused on. Like, it's easy to get sucked up into that and say, oh, look, we shouldn't have tweeted here. And look, if I had an opportunity to get his iPhone, I'd certainly take a hammer to it and knock the Twitter app off. But when you look at true points on the board, and this is what I think is most important, you look at true points on the board, things that matter. I mean, Tim, we have the lowest female unemployment in 17 years. We have the lowest African-American unemployment ever, lowest Hispanic unemployment ever, 2.5 million new jobs, 1.5 million people moving from welfare programs into the workforce. I mean, these things are fantastic. We're seeing numbers and statistics we haven't seen in decades. The economy is growing. I think that you're seeing a president that is truly putting America first, blowing up some of these unfair trade deals, in some cases taking a sledgehammer to attack, but calling CEOs who are talking about moving out of the United States and saying, no, I want you to come back. I mean, people are feeling represented. And I understand that the tactics in some cases maybe aren't things that you and I would do, but I've really tried to stay focused on outcomes. And I think when you look at outcomes and some of the things that I talked about, 6 million people, higher wages. I mean, these are all things that lift up everyone. It's not helping Republicans or just helping Democrats. It's helping everyone. It's helping our community, and really impressive to see the changes.
It really is. I want to come back from the break, maybe talk specifically about immigration, talk maybe a little specifically about the tax cuts, but then I also want to get into leadership. Speaker Ryan's announced his retirement. Congressman Scalise is up there maybe in a leadership position. I want to get your thoughts on those items as well. We're visiting with Congressman Garret Graves. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Passion, experience, safety. These are what set Arkell Constructors apart as a premier general contractor. At Arkell Constructors, our goal is to exceed our clients' expectations, whether it's commercial, industrial, or facility maintenance. We have the team and processes in place to provide a solution for you. To us, every project is a resume for our future. Arkell Constructors, the solution for your next building project.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
It might be one of the most efficient, most effective methods of communications we've ever used.
For more than 25 years, the TJC Group has been helping industry communicate and build relationships with communities, elected officials, and governmental agencies. We are the leading firm in the U.S. for the development, management, and facilitation of industry-based community advisory panels.
Whether you're building a new facility or you manage an existing business, let us put our community and governmental relations experience to work for you.
The TJC Group, facilitating solutions for business and industry.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Congressman Garret Graves. We talked a little bit at the end of the last segment about the Trump administration and your thoughts over the first 15, 16 months. Let's talk specifically about the tax cut bill. What are you seeing as a result? I know you're plugged in and you're watching for the changes to the economy, the reinvestment by corporations, the bonuses that we see that workers are earning, pay increases. General thoughts on the tax cut bill.
The bottom line is that our tax code in the United States was uncompetitive. We hadn't updated it in 31 years. They didn't have an iPad. They didn't have an iPhone. The economy was fundamentally different. You had a mullet. I mean, all sorts of things that were very different. They were very different then than now. And you know, look, you think about it very simply. If this was a hamburger place and your hamburgers were $8, and right across the street they had a hamburger place that served the same quality, the same everything, and theirs was $4, how long do you think your restaurant's going to be in business? It's not. And so we were seeing this out-migration of businesses and investment because other countries had tax codes that were 1/2 or 1/3 of ours. And so what we've done is we've simply recalibrated, we've modernized our tax code, and it's resulting in dollars coming into the United States, not going out. And so it's helping provide more job opportunities, higher wages for people, and of course the lower individual rates, allowing people to keep more of their own checks because they can spend their money better than government. And so look, 95% of that bill I think was very good policy. I think it was overdue policy, and we're already seeing the positive repercussions in our economy, including right here in Louisiana.
You think about tax structures, right, at the federal level, and that makes you turn your attention to our state, right? We talked briefly before we started taping today about the issues of the Louisiana budget and the things that are going on there. It looks like we're moving toward a constitutional convention here to maybe sort of rewrite our own tax code in a lot of ways. Your thoughts on that? What's going on in the legislature and these chronic budget deficits that we face?
I think that it's overdue. When I first jumped on the campaign trail for the first time in my life in 2014, I talked about this and said how we needed a constitutional convention. The threshold to change the Constitution in Louisiana is low, and it results in the Constitution being used for what a lot of other states just use to change their laws. And so we have so much of our revenue, so much of our money that is locked up in different trust funds, which might have been a great idea in 1975.
Right. When I had the mullet.
I usually just say that behind your back, but we can throw it down the table.
Gotcha.
No, but we've got to just reflect today's priorities in our budget, in our Constitution, in our tax code. We're losing companies and investments to Texas and Florida and other states that have more competitive tax codes, and we've got to just reprioritize our limited tax resources for things that are truly priorities of the people today. And so the Constitutional Convention needs to happen. We need to make sure we stay focused on the right things.
You and I talked a little bit about it during the break, and I've said it over and over and over on this television show and my radio show. What does a world-class system of education look like in Louisiana, and what does it cost? Let's do it. What does a world-class system of infrastructure development and maintenance look like, and what does it cost? And let's do it. Let's invest in those priorities. Let's have the flexibility to do it And then as we get down the line to other things that government might want to do, there will be a question of whether we've got the resources to do it or not. I want to switch gears. Speaker Ryan announced that he will not seek re-election. I know that you had a relationship or have a relationship with the Speaker. Let's talk first about your thoughts on his leadership and what his legacy might be.
First, I think it's important to note, just being inside these closed-door rooms and meetings, the Speaker's job is an impossible job. You have everything from Tea Party, the Freedom Caucus type folks, to these Tuesday group, Main Street Republicans, the moderates, and everything in between. And so it is a very, very hard job to try and develop consensus, to try and referee, to try and get a majority of people supportive of a position. It's a really challenging job. And Paul rejected this offer to be Speaker probably about 5 times. And finally, when he accepted, he stood up in the front of the room, closed door, and he said, look, he said, I understand that doing this is gonna dead end my career. It was the first thing that he said. But he said, I'm going to do it because I think it's the best thing for the House. He has done a good job. I'm not going to say I agree with everything he's done, because I have not, but he has done a good job in a very challenging job in challenging circumstances. And I think that he's done it honorably. He's been much more open and inclusive in the decisions, and I certainly appreciate his leadership.
Louisiana's own Steve Scalise, currently the majority whip, is in line possibly to become the next Speaker. I don't think it's a given yet. Your thoughts on that and what it might mean for Louisiana?
It could be amazing for Louisiana to have someone in that power position. We haven't seen those types of leadership roles in Louisiana really ever, and so it could be fantastic for Louisiana to have the Speaker of the House from our home state. I'll also say that I think it's premature for us to be having leadership races and for us to start dividing the Republican caucus over who's for Scalise, who's for McCarthy, who's for Jim Jordan, or whoever else throws the hat in the race. The reality is we're still running the race. We're still involved in what I mean by that. We're still involved in passing laws, in fixing a lot of the wrongs in this country. I mean, there are so many broken things in government right now, and we don't need to be dividing our Congress, dividing the Republican conference right now. We need to be working together to continue getting things done that we promised we would do. Healthcare, infrastructure, and a lot of other priorities, immigration, are left undone. Border wall, border security, we've got to fix those things. And so for us to be having a race or dividing people right now, who's with Scalise, who's with McCarthy, I think it's a mistake. And so I've urged them to tone it down, to stay focused on what our job is right now, to run through the tape in terms of going all the way through 2018, this election season. After elections, let's sit down, we'll talk then and decide what happens moving forward. But glad Steve's where he is, and it'd be great to have a Speaker from Louisiana.
Well, we're going to continue to watch Congressman Garret Graves as well. The results speak for themselves. Stay focused on that. Stay focused on getting things done like you have, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Tim.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.